Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about the 1985 Wave 4 Tele-Viper action figure from the G.I. Joe line. When Hasbro first introduced G.I. Joe as a 3 3/4 inch real American hero back in 1982, I fit into their target audience 100%. I wanted all the toys, I read the comic books, when I watched cartoons I got excited if there was a commercial for G.I. Joe. For the next few years, G.I. Joe was a huge part of my life. By 1985, I had a nice collection of Joes and Cobras who shot, punched, kicked, stabbed, and blew each other up pretty much daily. I loved these toys. I also loved the Marvel G.I. Joe comic book, and what I wanted more than anything at the time was action figures of those awesome bikers from the comics, the Dreadnoks. When I saw my first Wave 4 figure in the toy store, it was Footloose, by the way, I looked at the back of his card and I realized that my dream of owning the Dreadnoks action figures was about to come true. I was beyond excited. Plus, not only were they making figures of Ripper, Buzzer, and Torch, but they also had all kinds of other rad new figures too. Snow Serpents, yes. Crimson Guard, yes. A new Snake Eyes figure with a sword and a wolf, yes. Tele-Vipers? We'll see. But the Dreadnoks, absolutely yes. That Footloose card back was my introduction to Wave 4, and there were so many awesome figures that it just blew my mind. The Tele-Vipers, honestly, had some pretty serious competition for my very few dollars. The Dreadnoks were my number one priority, and there were half a dozen other figures higher up on my list than the Tele-Vipers. So the stars never aligned, and I never brought home a Cobra Communications figure. As time went on, another wave of figures was released, and the Tele-Vipers just kind of faded into the background. But really, they seemed to be designed to be background characters. They were the IT guys of Cobra. When they were kids, Tele-Vipers were probably in the AV club at school. Even the Tele-Vipers file card has got to be one of the most dull, tech-heavy file cards ever written for a G.I. Joe figure. Reading it is about as interesting as reading the owner's manual for a VCR. When you look at the figures, the gun they came with isn't even really a gun. It's a frequency jamming and unjamming device that hooks up to their fancy radio backpack. When it comes to their uniform, they're basically wearing a blue maintenance guy outfit with purple bulletproof vest and purple shoes. The file card tries so hard to make it sound fancy, but their helmet is basically a set of headphones, a couple of microphones, and a digital readout. As a kid, these guys just never really grabbed my interest. However, as an adult who's briefly worked a desk job, dealt with customer service, and even worked in IT for a little while, I have to admit I kind of feel for the Tele-Vipers. I imagine that they were picked on in high school for being in the AV club, so to get their revenge, they join Cobra thinking they're going to be some kind of bad mofos, but find themselves doing the exact same boring IT work that they were doing before. Only now, they're burning up because they have to wear that hot helmet all day and the bulletproof vest. Oh, and occasionally they have people shooting at them. These guys are the common man more than any other G.I. Joe figure, and I think that's what made me eventually change my opinion about them. Even though they were around for years, they were never really very prominent characters in the G.I. Joe universe. In the comics, they were kind of background. The first appearance of a Tele-Viper that I can confirm in the Marvel comic book line is a single image in issue number 47 from May of 1986, where a Tele-Viper informs Cobra Commander of an attack that's underway. For the rest of the original Marvel run, the Tele-Vipers show up occasionally, usually as background characters or every once in a while with a line or two of dialogue, but I can't think of a single issue where the Tele-Vipers had much of a big role to play in any story. They're usually just delivering a message, watching a monitor, or holding a video camera. The cartoon was similar, but their roles weren't quite so defined in animated form. In general, they seem to be used in the cartoon as the guys who man the computers at the base, or out in the field as communications troops. But you also see them organizing delivery of heavy weapons and other dull managerial tasks, like in the episode Rocket's Red Glare, where one of the Tele-Vipers is overseeing the setup of a bunch of weapons and vehicles to attack a restaurant. Yep, even the Tele-Viper in that episode says, "Come on, isn't this overkill?" But in the end, he's just a guy following orders. In Part 5 of ARAH's Serpentor Arise, a bunch of Tele-Vipers appear in a communications hub of a Cobra base, which is exactly what you would expect from Tele-Vipers. But in this episode, the Tele-Vipers fight the Joes who've infiltrated the base. They actually have a pretty big fight scene, with some of the Tele-Vipers showing some serious fighting skills before getting their butts kicked by G.I. Joe. That was kind of a weird scene, but surprisingly it made a lot of sense for the G.I. Joe cartoon. On the other hand, possibly their strangest appearance in the cartoon series is earlier in the Arise Serpentor Arise episode. A group of Tele-Vipers is seen carrying a large coffin-like container for Dr. Mindbender. That seems like it would have been a job for standard Cobra troopers, so I'm not sure how the Tele-Vipers got roped into it. I'm sure there was a conversation about that later in the Cobra break room.
Why did Dr. Mindbender get us to carry that thing? You know, Gary, I've been having trouble with my lower back. My chiropractor says I'm not supposed to be lifting anything heavy.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, Jimmy. My carpal tunnel's been acting up. Walking around with that heavy thing really hurts my hands. But what are you gonna do? Scrap Iron keeps taking down all the OSHA signs we put up. We get no respect around here, Jimmy. It's just like high school.
As a kid, I never gave any thought to Tele-Vipers beyond associating them with the flying Cobra flight pods, also known as trouble bubbles, and even that association was based solely on the flight pod box art. When the flight pods appeared in the cartoon, they were almost always piloted by one of the main Cobra characters, or at least by standard Viper troops, and never by Tele-Vipers. Since I never owned a Cobra flight pod, I guess I never really wanted a Tele-Viper action figure. But as I said, I developed an appreciation for these guys in recent years. I certainly don't feel the need to own an entire squad of them, but I'm glad I have added one to my collection, all these years later. I'm curious to hear your opinion of the Tele-Vipers. Did you see them as characters that were perfect for troop building, or is one Tele-Viper enough? Or is one Tele-Viper one too many? Did you have this figure when you were a kid? Do you have one now? If you've ever owned a Tele-Viper figure, was he the pilot for your Cobra flight pod? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like. It would be great if you would share it on social media. And if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell. And one last thing. If you're a fan of toys, you should know about Toylanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit Toylanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.